BU, everyone. Welcome, welcome. My name is T Money. I'm gonna be entertaining y'all for the evening. We got some good tracks ready to roll. But I'm gonna start us off with a
What's up?
track I made. Rob, oh get Rob. That my number is 592. Throw some money at me at the church. Declared war on your ass, you gon' get fucked up. Import spinning around rappers and that's what they do. Know these dudes are gonna clean your pockets like a vacuum.
God, it's so weird to see my face while having conversation. Oh no, you're fine. It's me talking to myself. Blah blah blah. Nice.
Sorry, I should unmute for that. I saved a caviar joint to smoke with you. I know you said nice already, but...
Well, I heard you.
I know, but nobody else did.
Well, hello, everybody else.
Let's rebalance this audio. Oh, man. Are these in the yellow bars or are these in the yellow bars? Look at the crowd. Just waiting for us. Jupiter's here. Dragon Slayer's here. Torgoth's here. What's up, you lovely people?
What up? What up?
What's the timer say? 4 seconds? Shit. I still got a half a granola bar. You ready to go hot, buddy?
Ready.
What's up, everybody? I'm gonna finish this granola bar. I don't care if it's uncouth. Why is my chat not scrolling on the screen here? Unacceptable. How's everybody's day going? How's your day going? Silver?
Oh, fantastic. Got a good start to the morning. It's gonna be a good day.
Fucking agreed, dude. Cheers. I got this caviar here that I will be lighting up as soon as I'm done with breakfast. I'm very excited.
With the bougie glass tip.
But yeah, man. The first time I opened one of those, I was like, okay. Like, you know, I'll be really happy with weed when we let people out of jail for minor weed infractions. But in the meantime, I'm pretty fucking happy with the fact that we can buy bougie weed.
They're already starting to in some states.
I know, I'm pumped about it, man. I'm pretty cool about the progress they're making there. I'm pretty happy about the progress they're making there.
I mean, we can always criticize that it should have happened faster, but at least it's happening now.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Hey, I got a couple of those glass drinking mugs from Goodwill too. That's the best purchase I've ever made.
Frosty.
Everybody, welcome to episode 13 of Sunday Tea with Bowborne and the Archers. I need to update the title. What was the title? Oh, you. Stop being gatekeeping nerds. Love it. I love the title for this week. It is "You Shall Pass." Stop being gatekeeping nerds. These Lord of the Rings nerds out there will love it. Is
Guilty.
gatekeeping 2 words?
I don't think so in this context.
That'll be a good first Google for us. I want to introduce my guest, everybody. Welcome to the stream with me, Silver Smoke. Very good friend of mine. Inspiring and up-and-coming content creator. Soon, once he battles the hump of many things to stop him from doing it, like so many of us do.
Yep. Well, the last one is getting this computer in, and once that computer hits the shelf, it'll be up and running.
Good. We can't wait to see it. We are
so
excited. What was I just about to pull up, bro? Do you remember? No, because I didn't tell you.
Were you looking for whether gatekeeping was 1 word or 2 words?
No, we're gonna do that together. What I was looking for is my notes. Notepad.
Oh, me too, Goth. I'm super excited for D&D.
Notepad Plus. Do y'all putting that on YouTube or anything?
I was gonna talk to the group, but yeah, absolutely. The second I get my the computer for our house, I'll record it and do all the editing and stuff if they're okay with it. But I obviously have to talk to them before I put their likelinesses and voices out on the internet.
Fair. I've been watching a lot of my friends do D&D content lately, and I've loved it.
Oh, it's so fun. Our group is a really good group of people.
I remember what I was looking up now is your fucking Instagram link. Spam in the chat!
Hey, thanks, buddy.
Thank you. All right. Granola bar's done. Like this joint. We'll get into it. I'm gonna leave the music going in the meantime while we just kind of banter and chat a little bit. Man, what a fucking hell of a week it's been for weather in Colorado, huh? Are you getting all this snow?
Yes, absolutely. Like, it still hasn't stopped all the travelers for weed, though.
Yeah.
Which is insane to me. But yeah, no, it's been thick here. Like, I have people who live in Colorado City Rye that end up spending half hour, 45 minutes to get out here. They're calling me the night before saying, like, they're not even going to try and leave.
That's crazy. No, though I get it, right? Like, well, on one hand, I kind of get it because on one hand, I get like being out and really needing to pick up, right? Like, really need to pick up. But on the other hand, I, as do many, many, many others, have the privilege of having a fucking weather app.
Yeah.
Either on my phone or on the computer, or like the weather is look in the fucking sky, you know, and prepare a little bit better.
Well, I mean, the one in particular that I'm talking about, like she like sends us pictures of like the 2 feet of snow they have because she lives out in the mountains, and she's like, yeah, I might not be able to get to work in my sedan. So I'm relatively okay with it.
That's fair. Oh
kinda
no, I
already
thought we
know
were
what's
talking
gonna
about
happen.
customers.
Oh yeah, no, them absolutely. If the pass through Raton isn't closed, they're coming.
Which is crazy. I just want to tell everybody that crossing state lines with marijuana is legal. Don't do that. That's not gonna stop anybody else from doing it though.
Yep, it's not a good look.
So we do not advocate for that here. Don't do it. It's fucking stupid.
Stay here, enjoy Colorado, smoke weed.
You go to jail a long time.
Except not during a pandemic, please.
Right. Well, that's its own ass other thing, right? Like, goddamn, bro. I admire dispensary workers during this whole thing because they have all of the downsides of being an essential worker, but they also sell drugs, so Republicans hate them.
Yeah, no benefits. Like at any time, your job could be put in jeopardy if like the feds want to crack down or anything. Yeah, even like potential fines or jail time if they so see fit. So it's pretty gnarly.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you have issues with banks too? Like some banks are dicks about cashing out pay and shit.
Yeah, well, everything money-wise in the cannabis industry is considered basically drug money. So if a bank were to accept and tender money from cannabis industry like workers or facilities, it's basically like they're laundering money for drug runners.
Okay, I see you, Mr. Escobar. So, you telling us you just have millions packed under that mattress behind you there?
There's get-arounds. Mostly is like there's been an outcropping of like third-party companies that basically
Launder your
work
money
with the dispensary. Yeah, they take the money in exchange for a fee for their service, and then they just deposit that in their own bank. So they're basically exchanging their cash, which is legal, for your cash, and then depositing their cash in their bank.
Oh, all right. I get that. Well, cool. All right. Well, how are you feeling smoky wise? You ready to get going?
Good, man.
Cool. Well, again, everybody, the topic today is gatekeeping, specifically nerds. Can you think of, if I said right now to you, which fandom would you say have you seen the most gatekeeping in, and why is it Star Wars?
Star Wars is a good example. Personally, for me, gatekeeping wise, I've seen some of the worst in Magic. Just the online community for Magic, especially when it comes to like people wanting to play and have fun with the game versus people who want to play with competitive based decks or like reading decks online, net decking. Like people really shit on others for just the things that they love and try and keep them from doing things that they love.
I am saying that you are correct. It is one word in this instance.
It is awesome.
It is. Torgoth said when we tried to get into the DBZ card game, it was super shitty. Are we talking about gatekeeping, Torgoth? Like, y'all run into some people that were like uber gatekeepers?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. We like played a tournament and they basically shat all over all of us. Like
I kind of remember that was at
bunch
Chaos,
of money.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was at Chaos. We spent a bunch of money to buy like a bunch of packs and everything to get everybody suited with decks.
I think I remember this.
That was one of the most uncomfortable experiences I've ever played.
Like any card game
ever.
Like what made it so it was like gate creep? What put it in that realm?
Well, it was for me. It was the fact that like I tried to play. I did not know the rules very well. I was just now getting into the game. I'd played maybe 2 or 3 matches before, and they intentionally pub stomped and then continued to talk shit on top of it.
Oh, that's the worst, man. Like not only okay. So in this case, the knowledge was gate kept from y'all as newer players. They kind of hoarded the experience of, I guess, player versus player in this new to you and other players card game in order to like feel superior and enable to like Like they wanted a meat grinder for their fucking skills. Well, which sucks too, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't probably feel very positive about that card game after that experience, did you? That Torgas specifically said tried, so it sounds like that didn't work out in terms of permanent.
Yeah,
right? So-
that was the first time I've ever dropped out of a tournament. I didn't even play any of the rest of the rounds or anything.
So you're saying that directly that these dudes, gatekeeping directly stopped you from playing. You like just bid them adieu and left.
100%.
Cool.
And I'd never even the people that we were playing with, like Goth and Oshi at the time and Bradley, like they'd ask me to play, and I didn't even want to play with them because I had such a negative experience with that card.
You just like
game
remember
itself.
that experience every time you tried to play.
Yeah, it's like if you eat something so much that even though you love it, now the thought of it just makes you feel the feeling that you had. I hated it.
I get that. I totally get that. Well, and the definition of gatekeeping here on Google says the activity of controlling and usually limiting general access to something. So that 100% meets criteria here. They limited y'all's game knowledge here. Well, and if you, they think about it, they also limited your fun and really your whole entry into this entire realm of this card game because they're being dickheads. The second one says a function or a system that controls access to operations, files, computers, networks, or for instance. So they're talking about mechanically, like a firewall would be a good example of gatekeeping. So obviously for this episode, we're talking about gatekeeping as it relates to nerddoms. We're gonna hit a lot of topics today. The one that we were just talking about, just to get a good example out there of what it looks like. And we're going to go into a few more as the show goes on. So to define gatekeeping, like we kind of went through the definitions there. So where are some other areas where you see gatekeeping in the nerd world? Can you hear me? Am I muted?
I'm sorry. What?
I said, where are some other instances in the universe where you see gatekeeping, specifically with nerdy stuff?
Oh, 100%. Like, huge part of the reason why I stopped playing League for the most part. I've seen it in like MMOs where like people won't let lower level people raid with them, even though they're doing a lower level raid.
Oh, I have hit this one, bro. That's pretty prevalent in WoW too, right? They're like, hey, you must have the ahead of the curve achievement. So for you, the ahead of the curve achievement is there's raids now in World of Warcraft have 3 difficulties. They have normal, which is pretty self-explanatory, heroic, which is normal but a couple more mechanics, and then mythic, which is uber hard. Normal and heroic are what's called flex now. So there's no more for normal and heroic raids, there's no more set raid sizes. The raid adjusts per person in the raid from 10 to 30 people. So you can have anywhere from 10 to 30 people in your raid, and all the bosses, all the mobs, everything will adjust health, which is pretty cool. So in Mythic, you have to be on this. And you can invite people from cross realms to your groups with you. Right? So it's pretty cool. Now the Mythic, the last difficulty is 20 people, and they all have to be on your same server. So that's where all the sweaty nerds are, right? But however, heroic, the medium of the 3, is still pretty hard. Like, it's not easy. And there's an achievement that you get, usually accompanied by a mount in World of Warcraft, where if you beat the last boss of the most recent raid that came out before the next content patch comes out that includes the next raid. So before the next raid comes out, you get an achievement called Ahead of the Curve, AOTC. And that's what gives you kind of like a, hey, I beat this boss on its hardest huggable difficulty for the next one, which is cool. So you're trying to get into heroic. Sire Denathrius is the name of the last boss in the most recent raid. You're trying to get into heroic Sire Denathrius groups, and you have people who are like, hey, AOTC only, which means we only want people in here who have already killed this boss. It doesn't matter if you're geared enough. It doesn't matter if you already know the fight. We only want you in here if you've killed it before, which defeats the whole purpose because people are actually trying to kill that motherfucker. So, and then you have issues with people like me who that's well known amongst World of Warcraft content creators. That boss is the hardest last boss of any opening raid of any expansion. right? So it's pretty well known for its difficulty. I've gotten that boss to 3.1%. I've seen every phase of the boss. I got it under 10% like 15 times before my group went to bed for the night, and I didn't invite back next week because I kind of sucked, but that's okay. The groups I'm trying to join don't need to know that. The point is that I know the fights, but they're like, hey, you haven't killed this before. It doesn't matter that you're able to, or we're going to keep you out of it. So yeah, I think that's a good example. In League, you mentioned League also.
Yeah, well, that one for me was the disparage between doing pubs and ranked. That was my first experience of getting gate kept for like a ranking structure. Nobody wanted to play with you unless you were at a certain rank. Nobody would queue with you if you were at a certain rank. But I was able to play like unranked games and have a decent amount of fun. But the second I tried to do anything ranked related, it was super toxic.
Excuse me. Sorry. I get that.
You're good.
Well, and you know, there's gatekeeping in a less social sense in games like League, where there's ranked play, where the matchmaking gatekeeps you because it puts you all players that are better than you on the other team and all players that are worse than you on your team. For instance, one of the shittiest things about Guild Wars 2 PvP right now is that there's not a very wide amount of player base in it, particularly because of a lot of gatekeeping, which we'll get into in just a second. But so when you're playing ranked games, sometimes if your queue timer goes over a certain threshold of time, it will dip into other ranks. So like I'm high gold, almost plat, and if the queue goes long enough, it'll pull into high silver for our games. So I've had games before where it's me, a high gold, low plat player, 2 silvers, 2 golds, and on the other team they have like 5 golds, for instance, right? So like, and it obviously works in my favor sometimes too. That's just the way numbers work. But so you get kept by the system too. So just to make sure I understand correctly, in League of Legends, you're saying you got gate kept by people who not wanting to play with you for a certain rank. Like, for instance, just to put it into like layman's terms, you're saying that if you were like a gold player, you had other friends who wouldn't want to play ranked with you if you were not like plat, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is a 2-part thing. It's people being gatekeeping nerds, but also like the system does discourage that kind of rank disparity too, because the person who is plat, if they lose a shit ton of points. Like there's a lot more on the line. You know what I mean?
And you definitely have that social like balance where I definitely understood it, which is the reason why I still played League from season 2 all the way to season 7. So like I still played for a long time. It's just something that I noticed and I understood. So it wasn't like I was mad about it, but definitely something that I noticed.
Right. Okay. Well, and this is a pretty good example of where like the players of a game are the real gatekeepers. Even though the developers do put in a lot of effort into making sure that kind of thing is balanced and accessible for players, the players are the real gatekeepers here. It sounds like what you're talking about. Jupiter in chat said that they ran into it a lot in Destiny. So, MMOs, like you were saying earlier, is a huge thing here, especially as Gear Score comes out. Did you know World of Warcraft has this thing called IO now, Raid IO and Dungeon IO? Basically, what it does is it's an add-on for the game that parses your account profile from the public World of Warcraft server, because they have armor. You just go to their website, type in a character's name, and it tells you what they've cleared, what they haven't cleared. So somebody made an add-on to that and condensed it into a score. So if you've done this boss on this many times, and here's the really fun thing, in World of Warcraft, every time you do a fight, some people can be running what's called Warcraft logs. And if they do that, it will analyze every single movement you make, down to the click that you make. It will tell you if you're wasting clicks. It'll tell you if you're using your rotation right for whatever build you have based on what your talents are. And it parses you versus every single other person who's ever had recorded data for that fight, and then it ranks you. So the first time I found out about this is a third party system, by the way. Not I don't know if it's, I doubt that it's endorsed by Blizzard, but it's like, so somebody can put in your character name. Now they'll just click on you in an add-on, or they'll highlight over your name, and it will tell them what your parse is in the world. It won't tell them if you've died or if you lived, or like how the group did. It'll just tell them what your world ranking is for a parse. And I'll tell you, I actually learned about this fairly recently. I stopped playing the game because I was so mad about it. But I play my fucking ass off in that game, right? And I make some mistakes in raids, but I do some pretty consistent damage. And I'm usually in the top 5 DPS. I look at these charts, even on the fights where I feel like I crushed it, and I never ever have beat more than a 30% parse. I've never been higher than the 30th percentile in this game. And like, so like when I queue for a group, they hover over my name and they see that, and then they're like, yeah, I'm not going to pull this guy in. So as a DPS, which in MMOs are, as most people know, are a fucking dime a dozen, and they're everywhere, they're just not going to take me. So I've actually run into a huge issue where if I don't have a dedicated group, a guild to run the game with every week, pick up grouping it, I'm not going to win, because there are people out there who are spending more time and more money and more gold like improving their characters at the micro level, you know what I mean? And not even that it's making an impact on the actual impact of the raid. And in fact, sometimes their mindset of, hey, I got to parse this game, I got to make sure every click is great, actually makes their parse worse because they're not paying attention to the mechanics of the fight. So they end up dying, or they end up fucking a mechanic and wiping everybody, right? So at this point, it's like the gatekeeping has become even weaponized, and as humans do, we've even made a tool out of it. You know what I mean? We even hey, look, fire for gatekeeping. So the gatekeeping goes down to even the micro level, and it's something else. So I think we kind of are on the same page about what it is, and we've given some pretty good examples of where we see it. Another example I really want to highlight here, and because I feel like it's important, I've seen a lot of it this week, is I see a gigantic amount of gatekeeping when it comes to women and content creation, like YouTube or Twitch, specifically YouTube or Twitch. I talked about this a little bit with Romy when we were talking about physicality in gaming a few weeks ago. I guess several weeks ago at this point. But the TLDR is a lot of people are kind of making sure that if a person is not what they expected when they think of a nerd who sits behind a screen and streams video games, whether it be women or somebody non-binary or somebody who just breaks the mold of what your nerd would look like, people get really shitty about it in their Twitch chat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's like plays off of the whole like, oh, you don't look like you're this kind of fan.
Exactly. So why is it important that we recognize what gatekeeping is? You've already given us a beautiful example. You said that you and Torgoth in chat here, you quit an entire trading card game because of one bad experience with these nerds. So if these nerds, do you think that if these nerds would have recognized that they were doing gatekeeping, that they would have, if you know it, do you think that if these nerds would have known, and clearly there's going to not be an unbiased answer here for you because you lived this experience, but like imagine if these nerds knew that the end result of their petty nonsense was going to be 2 players quitting the game. And we talk about this in our LARP amp guard all the time. If we're actually a little bit condescending now that I think about it, because we say don't break your toys, right? So if you beat the shit out of somebody who joins the game for the first time and they don't come back, you're going to run out of players to play with.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. There's 2 different mentalities when it comes to that. There's the person that doesn't care if you don't like it, get out, or the people who are empathetic, like, oh, like I don't want to ruin an experience for this person. This person deserves to have as much fun with this as I do.
Right. So we're saying at one, it's important that we recognize it because we want to create a welcome environment instead of a restrictive environment for somebody trying to join a common interest or hobby.
Yeah.
Okay. White, that's hilarious. So, and another good example said you quit playing League for the same reason. Right?
Yeah, the whole competitive atmosphere, like everybody, all of my friends that I had at the time, and I play games to be social with my friends. Like I normally barely play by myself. So when all of my friends were playing ranked, but none of them wanted to play ranked with me because or nobody wanted to play with me because they were all playing ranked, but they didn't want to play with me because I wasn't good enough to play with them. It just made me lose the drive to want to play the game. So I just stopped in general.
Good example. Good example. Okay, so what are some other reasons why it would be important, why we recognize it? So to not drive away players from the common interest, right? Or nerddom, like Star Wars fans, right? How many jokes have you heard about people? Like, how many times have you told somebody you're a Star Wars fan and then they like, I mean, we know somebody in our life, you mentioned him earlier, who will give somebody the 5th fucking degree if they like, they'll BZT them into the fucking ground about whether or not they like Star Wars. Oh yeah, well did you read like this 8th book in this obscure series that Barnes and Noble sold for 3 minutes at a midnight release on a full moon? Because I fucking did.
I remember this specific conversation where I stopped having conversations about Star Wars with that person when I mentioned that episode 1 was one of my favorite movies, and he flipped.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like episode 1. I loved it, man. I'm a huge fan of all the Star Wars movies. I think they all have their like a special place and they all do different things, and I fucking loved it, right? Like, honestly, I think that a lot of people give, just to go on a side tangent here, because that's what we're famous for here. I think that the first episode gets a lot of hate, Star Wars episode 1, but I don't think people realize without that Star Wars trilogy recaptivating an entire couple new generations of people, that like Star Wars probably wouldn't have its popularity that it has now, right? It wouldn't be partnered with Disney, because the Star Wars happened in the 70s and 80s. So we're talking about people who grew up and were cognitive 90s to 2000s didn't give a fuck about Star Wars. Like the real nerdy ones did. The people who had parents that never shut the fuck up about Star Wars, they knew about Star Wars, right? They loved the old movies. So they were even more pumped when the new ones came out, but it wasn't relevant in pop culture as much. The merchandising was there, but it was mostly collectible. The advertising was all but gone. People were focused on new hot things. You know what I mean? Like Pokemon, for example. So the world was moving on from Star Wars. All of and their popularity also coincided with the great video game crash around the time too. So like Star Wars was on the fucking way out the door, kind of like Firefly is now. You run into less and less people who know what Firefly is, and it's heartbreaking. But then,
it's such a good show.
It is, but then they made these 3 new episodes that sure were not necessarily, compared to the first one, a little bit different. But like it like slingshotted my interest for Star Wars at that point. I went back and watched the old ones more because I just wanted more Star Wars. You know what I mean?
I mean, and episode one brought us 2 really awesome things. They brought us pod racing and Ewan McGregor.
Exactly. Well, and think about this, especially in relations to both good actors and pod racing. This was also around the time of the N64 and PlayStation 1. How many good fucking games can you think of that were Star Wars Episode 1 related? You know what I mean?
So many.
So like, I think that we can actually probably crawl back down the spider web with this one and reattach it here, because what I think that we're describing is it's important that we recognize gatekeeping as it being a limiter to things becoming more popular, right? So I guess that is, and popular, and let's say more accepted. So we'll say it's important because we want it to, we want people to join. And these two feel kind of similar because we want to increase its exposure. So to explain the difference for anybody who's like, well, those sound like the same thing. One of the things that we described in terms of it's important to recognize gatekeeping is because we don't want people to quit once they found out about this thing that we really love. Another good example that you and I both know is the LARP that we do, Amped Guard. Although there's a lot of people who come and try it for the first time that are just really turned off from the activity, from people who were kind of dicks about it, and then they just never come back. You know what I mean? So, and then the second one is because if a person gatekeeps something, Star Wars, for example, like if people said, no, don't reboot Star Wars, there was, I believe, and I don't know what I would Google for this, so I'm just speculating here. Somebody else who is intent on proving me wrong can Google this faster than me, I think. But I think that I remember hearing about campaigns of people saying, no, cancel the Star Wars. They're good enough how they were. You're going to ruin them. Which,
oh man, they did definitely for the newest 3.
I remember that. So I only imagine that it happened for the original, or for the prequels too. And if that would have happened, all of those benefits that we talked about from those movies coming out would have never happened ever. Star Wars would be theoretically dead. So when we say we want to increase its exposure, we're saying if something gets gatekept, then the probability of it getting into the hands of somebody who's never heard about it before, which we're going to hit on a quick side tangent in a second, but the probability of it getting into the hands of somebody who's never seen it before dramatically reduces. And then that does impact the amount that it will grow, like directly. So they're two different things, but that one does impact the other. So
I do feel like there is an importance to make a distinction between actual gatekeeping and having criticisms. Like
Right.
taking for example, like episode 1, like there are a lot of things that are bad about episode 1.
Exactly.
But it's the act of making it to where you don't consider this person part of your community. You actively make them try and feel bad about being a fan of it, even though you have criticisms of it, becomes the gatekeeping portion.
Right.
So like
Well said.
you can't just say that because you have a negative comment or a negative feeling towards a thing, because a lot of people have negative feelings towards Amguard per se.
Sure. And League and WoW and Guild Wars. But
we'll still show people how to fight, still play,
right. They'll still actively contribute to that person's growth.
Exactly.
That's a really good distinction, and it's definitely, you're 100% right that it is important to make that. Just because a person criticizes a thing doesn't necessarily mean that they're gatekeeping it. I will add the caveat for me that is something that a person should be mindful of when they are expressing their criticisms. Is to try not to scare something, or if you're gonna I find it works for me best when, if I'm going to criticize something, I also praise something. You know what I mean? Life is balanced. There's positives and negatives to most things. I'll say that like every episode. So okay, so to recap, it's important that we recognize gatekeeping, because we don't want to drive people away from whatever it is that is being gatekept, and we want to increase the number of people that would discover this thing otherwise had it not been gatekept. Yeah,
absolutely.
We also added a special note which deserves an asterisk on the show sheet. Difference between criticisms and gatekeeping. So I was typing and burping at the same time. You have to point out the difference between criticizing something and gatekeeping something. And when you're criticizing something, you have to be careful that it doesn't turn into gatekeeping something. So let's dig a little bit more into a couple more examples that we've seen gatekeeping. We kind of surface touched on a few of them just so that we can kind of demonstrate what it is exactly. And we've kind of touched some of personal examples of what we've seen in life. But what are some examples that weren't necessarily happening to you, but that you observed like third party out there of other people gatekeeping? We already kind of hit Star Wars as a good one.
Yeah, one off the top of my head would be like PC versus console discussion, where the PC master race talks shit about the console players, or even just Xbox versus PlayStation.
That's the name of the PC subreddit too, isn't it? PC master race.
Yeah. So I definitely see that type of atmosphere and that type of mentality when it comes to like the equipment used to play the games that we enjoy. So you're also hitting different levels of gatekeeping as you get into the nerddom. Like it's not just about the content of the thing that you're doing, but also the way that you access that content.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, because a lot of gatekeeping happens on the hardware side of things, especially now that we're in between console generations. People are like, well, no, we're in the next console generation because they're out, but that's not the case, right? Like we're not until the next console generation, until the previous console generation is in the $10 bin at Walmart, all of their games, not just a couple of them, and until the slim versions of the consoles come out, right? Like those are the two requirements to firmly be in the next console generation. So we're currently in between a console generation. So I see a lot of gatekeeping behind people saying, oh, you're still playing on PS4, or oh, you use AMD PC components, or you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of gatekeeping. And what I think that there's two parts coming in there, because not only people are being just shitty about equipment to another person, but I don't think that they're putting themselves in the other person's shoes. They're not getting the perspective of that person in terms of privilege, because the person who has the quote unquote lesser of the two things might not have the privilege of upgrading. You know what I mean? They might
Absolutely.
not have the ability to go out there and get the latest and greatest. And my favorite thing to see happen is when folks are like, oh, well, you have a shitty this or you have a shitty that, and then the person with the shitty machine comes back and just beats the shit out of everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It plays back on like the card games and Magic and stuff. Like, not everybody can pay to have a $40 land, $300 single card that are like staples to make CDEDH decks, and then you come around with like crazy jank stuff, and it's just fun to watch people get really mad.
Yeah. Well, and then that oops, wrong one. That comes into a bunch of other things too, in terms of, like, for instance, we were talking about the LARP M card earlier. I did notice I fought really heavy against this on Facebook and got some negative criticism for it, but like they really wanted to tighten down and restrict the rules of play when it came to armor and look the part and garb, and like, hey, you can only play if you look this x amount of Y fantasy blah 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 blah, no this clothes, no those shoes. And I was like, I don't think you guys realize how much you're gatekeeping your LARP here by doing this, because there's a lot of people who aren't afforded the privilege. And then of course you have people who jump on and be like, oh, well, you know, there's a lot of people offering to make this or X, Y, but that increases like a whole new social dynamic that nobody like anticipated. Like, you have to jump through all of these other hoops just to enjoy something, like, or you can just let people go out there and swing stupid foam swords at each other in basketball shorts. Who gives a fuck what people are wearing? Like, sure, like, people are already gonna yell stupid shit when they drive by in a car. It doesn't matter if everybody's dressed the same or not.
I definitely remember this, and like the people that were very vehemently for it were like, well, there's so many people in the community that even if you can't do it, somebody else can help you do it or do it for you. And that leans to me, like, I never ask my friends that make art or content to give me their art or content for free. And sometimes, like, people just don't have the money to be like, I don't see somebody who's struggling to go buy $100 tunic from somebody so they can look the part, so they can feel part of the game, when it's their outlet for the week, or like, it's just disappointing.
Yeah. Well, and there's a kind of a manipulative dynamic behind it too, because they're actually creating a problem by enforcing these rules, and then they are also creating the solution to that problem as well, right? It's very American healthcare-esque. So, you know, there's gatekeeping on a lot of levels with just that one example, but you know, it happens in a lot of other situations too. You know what I mean? I'll give you another example. For streamers on Twitch, there's kind of a bit of a social gate there with like people. There's pressure to have like a X and Y amount of equipment for your stream. You must have a webcam, you must have X quality of mic, you must have X quality of stream. That actually makes so many streamers wait. I mean, I'm kind of talking to one that makes so many streamers wait to start creating content until they hit X amount of hardware requirements. And it actually, like, you've been wanting to do this for years now, you know, and you've been saving and grinding and working your ass off. But like, if this were a little bit more accessible, if this industry were a little bit easier to break into, you probably would have done this years ago.
Yeah, specifically with this, like, not only did I feel that social pressure to make a better product, I also have like an inherent like want to be the best at whatever I do, whenever I put my effort into it. Otherwise, I feel like my effort is wasted.
So that pivots us to a very interesting, fun subtopic on this topic, Silver, and that is self-gatekeeping.
Yeah, I am a very big offender of self-gatekeeping.
So we already just heard an immediate example of what this looks like, right? Have you I'm gonna play around with these scenes while I talk because I'm getting fidgety and I need something to put my brain on. What other do you want to dig into that more? Have you seen other areas where you self gatekeep, where you keep yourself from doing something because there's like what you feel is an unachievable goal, or something that you can't overcome in terms of obstacles? Or
well, I normally find it for me in like social situations, and a lot of the reasons why I tend to like not do things for myself, like you've pointed out pretty regularly to me.
Sorry. I feel like an
no,
asshole the way you worded that. Shit, my
Sorry.
bad, dude.
No, you're good. That I'll forego myself in the favor of others, specifically because I gatekeep myself with being able to like stand up for myself in like a group or social setting or doing things around people.
Yeah, I have seen that. And I mean, I will proudly admit to giving you shit for putting your needs behind the needs of other people behind you in situations, because like, you know, we've talked about it before, you and I, at length too, about how that's kind of a Disney brain thing, right? Like we were kind of raised and conditioned that unless we're actually useful to society, that we're actually not worth anything. And so that's kind of only half of our fault. But also, like, I also want to point out, like we just talked about, if we're going to criticize something, then you also point out something good about it. I have seen you do like tremendous leaps in terms of making sure that you do respect yourself and your needs, while also, like, you've done an incredible job of doing that while finding a balance to take care of the people around you too. Torgoth's saying oof in chat because he's exactly the same kind of motherfucker who does this.
Yeah, I know, but that's why I think that myself and him, or him and myself, have a good friendship, and you as well. And you're a big portion to the leaps that I have made, because you do that challenge to me. You do let me know when I'm doing it, because normally I'll just let it slide off and people just acknowledge it as just I'm a nice person and I do this all the time. And you're one of the people that does like voice that I should be taking care of myself, which is not only a good reminder for myself, but to remind myself to challenge myself, which is, it's nice, to be honest.
Fair. Well, and y'all have done that for me too, right? I keep a very close group of friends, and like in my head, like, will move, because, you know, everybody has in their head what I've referenced before, well, Super Stoner Tripping Balls, as the social MySpace top 8 in their lives, right? People have different tiers of friendship with people versus it be like adopted family or best friends or regular friends, which sounds demeaning, but it's not, or acquaintances, or like third parties, or orbiting people in life that you know of, you just don't know at all, right? So like, one of the things that I personally require for a person to be in the upper echelon, speaking of gatekeeping, of my friends list, then this is 100% what this is I want my friends to offer me constructive criticism, specifically when I solicit it, but sometimes recognizing, well, you know, like you've done in the past, where you're like, hey, here's this thing that I've noticed, and with the added caveat of the person not being super shitty if I decide to decline their advice. Like, even if they're right, you know, a person has to cut their own vines down in the jungle. You know, they have to live their own lives. So, like, it'd be great. I love it when people such as yourself or such as Torgoth offer me a constructive criticism and then don't freak the fuck out or hold it against me or tell me I told you so if I don't take that. You know what I mean?
And like I don't necessarily enjoy doing it, but like, it's necessary, and I know that people do need that sometimes, same way I need it. So that's me making sure that I'm being part of the two-way like accountability.
For sure. But I do say I told you so. Yeah, Torgoth, that's why I just don't talk to you that much, right? Like...
Well, I mean, even recently, like with the stuff that you've been bringing up, like, even in doing that, I need to make sure that I disclaim myself in saying, like, do you want advice or do you not want advice?
Yes. I was talking, I don't remember who I was talking about with an episode with that, but we were fucking talking about that, and like, it's changed. That has changed a lot of my friendships. Well, and it has helped me tremendously, because like we just talked about, that Disney brain has me like wanting to jump at the bit of every chance to be useful or to change things, you know what I mean? Or like improve things. And like, asking my friends which way to help them. I have noticed, I should finish that thought first. Asking my friends which way I can help them best has really taken a lot of pressure of self-imposed expectations of that kind of dynamic. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Now, I have noticed that there are some people when you ask, hey, you kind of have to read the room, I would say. At least in some, there's been experiences that I've had with asking that question where I've asked that question to a person and they were caught off guard by the question and they only wanted to vent, but they didn't want to seem ungrateful for my ear. So they said, well, both is good. Or, I could have a little bit of both, or I'm mostly just venting, but I'd love to hear anything that you want to say. Like, you can kind of read the room and tell that that person's not interested in your advice, but they're also like afraid, because we'll come back to that in a second, but because there are many situations, kind of like we talked about before, where when a person goes into something with the best intent, it's not necessarily the impact that comes out of it. So
Right.
like, while that is an important question to ask, it does require a little bit of emotional intelligence in interpreting its answers sometimes. So yeah, that's a really good thing to bring up for sure. So what are some other examples of gatekeeping we've seen? I can rattle off so many. Like I said, women in video games, really, because that's where I spend most of my time, is video games. People of color in cosplay is a pretty big one. Like, you can't cosplay that person, they're not black, right? Like, I've heard that so many times I could fucking spit. um
Yeah.
we've seen people, I've seen gatekeeping of music in terms of, hey, I like this one song by this one artist. Well, if you don't know every single song on every single album, you're not an actual fan. We talked about a couple of other movies. There's fucking art. There's like, it's so many different. Torgas said gatekeeping in weed. How often have you seen that? Day to day to day. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Art.
The
Alicia
Alicia
saying
art,
art.
absolutely.
Yeah, good example. I was at like, there's. What are some other examples of gatekeeping that you've seen or observed outside from the outside experience?
Like, what about free to play versus non free to play games?
That's a good one. Like
Just
pay to win
putting
games.
yeah, well, not even just pay to win games, like games with a subscription fee. Literally lock out people who can't pay that fee to play that game.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about like an economic gatekeeping. Like, so somebody really wants to play World of Warcraft but can't afford like $15 a month.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and then you have the real gatekeepers who are like, it's only $15 a month. Just don't put avocado on your toast this month. Well, or just, why don't you feed your family a whole less bag of beans so that you can pay for a World of Warcraft expense? Like, what kind of fucking asshole says something like that? You know what I mean? There's just so many examples of gatekeeping out there. And I think that, this is going to kind of help us draw the conclusion a little bit later, but like, it's really difficult to address as a concept, as a thing that happens on a broad terms. Gatekeeping, like, there's not a solution outside of just being more considerate to the surroundings, or the people and things around you. But like, that's emotional intelligence in regards to people, and it's well documented that that's not like a widespread thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's what it is at its core, though, is exactly your awareness of the things and the people around you, and whether or not you have that empathy for it or not. Because that comes back to those two types of people when they notice that they are gatekeeping: is, do they genuinely care and realize what they're doing and stop, or do they say, well, if they don't like it, they can leave?
Right, get good. Which is the first problem that we were talking about earlier in terms of driving new
Mhm.
players away from your thing.
Yeah.
There's another thing that I've seen in gatekeeping recently that's kind of aggravated me that I want to point on real quick, but I could ramble for 4 hours about it and probably will in the future. I have seen a gross amount of gatekeeping in terms of social justice. I'll give you an example. If you, okay, so for instance, I got sternly talking to from friends for ordering from Chick-fil-A, and I'm a no ethical consumption under capitalism. Like, it doesn't matter what I buy unless I go out there and kill it myself. Somebody is screwing over someone to get that thing to my fucking doorsteps, right? So that's just the way the American consumer network works. That's the way capitalism works. So if Chick-fil-A is the so for food, for my fast food, because I don't order often, there's a triangle, and it has to be fast, it has to be inexpensive, and it has to be delicious. And I will settle for 2 of the 3 prongs of this triangle because it is fast food, right? Now, Chick-fil-A hits all 3 of those things. It's close to me, so it's fast. It's pretty delicious, and it's dirt fucking cheap, dude. I can get 3 meals worth of food for $40, like, and have it delivered. That includes tip. That's everything. So like, so I ordered it recently, and somebody told me, how can you say that you care about all these injustices in the world and still eat Chick-fil-A? It's like, so you're saying that because I ordered from a fast food restaurant who is not at all impacted by my ethical use of the dollar, quote unquote, that I automatically don't care about other social issues that exist?
Yeah, especially since that dollar is made, sent out, and minted by the government that sanctions that allows that company to exist in the first place.
Right. And there, I have other, I've also noticed gatekeeping in terms of being a Mexican person, because I'm 6'2" and white, right? I'm clearly only half Mexican. And like, trying to learn more about my Mexican heritage has been pretty difficult in terms of getting, word of mouth things, because there's only so much that a person can Google and research, but there's so much culturally that you don't learn if you don't spend time within a culture, right? Like, outside knowledge can only get you so far. So like, if I try and learn from somebody else who is Hispanic or who's Mexican specifically, and I'm trying to ask like questions about holidays or about whatever it might be, food, music, there's been quite a few different topics, but it's always like, well, you're not Mexican, I'm not going to tell you about any of this, right? And the biggest thing I've noticed there is recipes, and it drives me up the wall. But so like, there's some pretty serious things, like in the grand scheme of things. I know that I want to keep it more specifically about nerdy stuff, but I think it's important to point out that gatekeeping overall is a detriment to not just nerdy things, right? It's a detriment to so many other different things in life.
Oh yeah, I've seen personally like gatekeeping for suffering. Like a good example
good
would be
example.
like, I believe it was Haley's, where she was talking about like being discriminated against for actually being a good-looking streamer or woman on like games and like that portion. Same thing with Joel. I've seen people kind of belittle Joel's problems, and he's constantly talked to me about like examples of how he didn't feel like he was being valued because they thought that he was just a pretty boy.
Right. Or they yeah, and that's a good example of people only notice one aspect about a person, and then gatekeep them, like you said, from any issues that they might have. It's that's a good example. So I guess the important thing to highlight here, just to recap again, is that gatekeeping is not just an issue in the many different areas of nerd life and culture that we've talked about, but in many other aspects of life. So, big question time. What the fuck do we do about it? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but like, that's a big question. That's, how do we start to dismantle this?
Well, I mean, we've identified the core of gatekeeping being a lack of awareness of the people and the emotional state of the things around you. So
I really like. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
This is going to be an area where you're sacrificing for another person. I won't allow it. So that is the elegant way to say no, you.
That's where we should start with, by like making yourself aware of the people around you. I believe. Yeah,
that's a good start for sure. And I want to highlight what Alicia said in chat in terms of gatekeeping being a way to preserve pride, because I think that is a very astute core recognition of what the plague of gatekeeping originates from, being pride. Oh fuck, dude, hold on. I've got some inspiration. I gotta write it down. Okay, so what you're saying concisely is be considerate, right?
Yeah,
and mindful.
And that's the first step to the junction point of the people that know their surroundings. Of, are you going to be the person that disparages and does it anyways, or are you going to be that empathetic person and kind person that's going to stop doing that because they now notice it's happening?
Yeah, fair. Something I derived from what Alicia said in chat is that it sounds like part of the solution here might be introducing a bit of humility to people who are at the top of their chosen nerddom, right? There's going to be like Twitch streamers, for example. Like, it begins with big Twitch streamers setting examples for what good looks like. I mean, because if you think about it, a lot of, to what you were talking about earlier, a lot of people starting out in that industry, they make the choices that they make based on equipment, based on what they stream, based on how they set up their stream with overlay, et cetera, basically every aspect through what they've seen through other content creators, more or less, or what they've seen on a YouTube tutorial, which is what I always advocate for anytime anybody asks me about streaming tips. Is the best way to learn. So like, a lot of the stuff that a person learns about streaming comes from people who have already been doing it. So I would say that the people who are at the top of their chosen craft need to be a little bit more humble about their place, and either A, willing to teach and mentor, or B, shut the fuck up.
Right. Absolutely. I feel like a lot of your episodes kind of boils down to be kind.
I was actually
Like-
talking I was talking to Bad Wolf about this morning, that a lot of the episodes actually boil down to don't be a cunt.
So like, this one in particular is just be kind once you understand that gatekeeping is a thing. It's once you're aware of what the concept, a concept like this is, you can't unsee it. You can't unfeel it in the things that you're doing. It's
Right.
like, it's the same thing with like concepts like gaslighting and things like that. You see it now.
Right. Well, and that, you know, we've talked about that in previous episodes too, where the first step towards, I mean, they say it in Alcoholics Anonymous too, right? The first step to solving the problem is admitting you have one, but that translates to a broader scale, not just alcoholism. The first issue, the first step towards a solution is an interruption to, right? Like an interruption to the pattern, because until there is that interruption, things are going to continue going. River is going to flow until you build a dam. Or until it hits
all the
the
best
ocean.
stuff is all the best stuff happens in the crazy spots.
Right. So, yeah. So I agree with you that it's funny that most of the episodes boil down to try to be a better person, which is probably me projecting, with the help of my friends, to the world, right? Maybe that's my midlife crisis, right? Everybody just be nice to each other. Mommy, daddy, stop fighting. Yeah, it's been quite an interesting ride, but I want to dig into a little bit more about what the second part means. So what we're saying, I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to elaborate on we talked about humility, but the quiet part of it. What I wrote down is, if you're at the top, whatever it is, cosplay, PvP, raiding, whatever it is, weed, Star Wars, if you're at the top, be humble or be quiet. And I want to say, because, you know, especially in the fucking country that we live in, people are going to say, well, but what about my rights? This is America. I have the freedom of speech. Yes, but you do not have the freedom of consequences, which we talked about previously, are driving new players away and keeping new players from joining. So,
And potentially hurting your own thing. Like, I've seen so many dumpster fires worth of like YouTube channels or Twitch streams that the second they started doing this to their own community, the community said, nah, fine, I'll go do something else. And then they're left with nothing. And then I personally have at least a little bit of empathy for those people losing out on that, especially if that was like their profession.
yeah, well, yeah. And then we got to talk about the limits on empathy for ourselves and versus our boundaries and how we extend to them, right? Because you're 100% right. Like, I can be sympathetic to that person without being empathetic to that person. I can relate and understand the sorrow that they're going through. Wait, is it empathetic without sympathetic? I think that's the one. I can be empathetic without being sympathetic. It's one without the other. And it's basically saying I understand. I actually learned this from the dice that binds us through one of the character interactions. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
Okay, there's a group of our mutual friends, LARPers out of North.
That's
Foco.
that's Dash's group, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yes,
That's Dash's
yes,
group.
yes.
So there's a character interaction there. I talked to Dash a little bit about it when they were on the episode, but there's a character interaction in there where Dash's character talked to another character and basically said, listen, I understand why you did what you did. I empathize with the way that you're feeling. I understand this must be difficult and there's a lot of feelings associated with it. And it's really hard to think when all of these things going through your head and you were scared, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, your actions were harmful to the rest of us. And you need to be accountable for those actions because it's important that you recognize that the actions that you took were detrimental so that you can not take those actions again going forward. Kind of like what you were saying.
Nat 20 on the politics.
It blew my fucking mind, honestly. And I'll tell you that it had a pivotal impact on the way that I live my life in terms of the support and motivation, I guess, that I share with the people in my life.
Right.
Habanero said that they feel like gatekeeping might stem from how much we value uniqueness. Oh, that's a really good take. When we feel like our culture is being diluted, we turn to gatekeeping as an attempt to revert. Well, and you know, Habanero, this is hilarious that you bring this up, especially with the company in here, because I have seen that personally happen within the Wolves. I have. Honestly, I've been a part of that happening in the Wolves. And like Silver said here, you know, I know you by 4 different names, and I have to Rolodex through them every time I want to like think about it. And you know, it gets funnier because of all the different usernames you've had while you're like trying to find your perfect brand name too. I'm like, Rolodex.
Now we're just gonna smush them together, and it's gonna be like Triskaidekaphobia long.
But to go back to what Habanero was saying, I 100% agree with you. I think that people were saying that the big issue, like generations face gigantic issues, or as a generation comes to maturity, the 18 to the 25, and for whatever generation it is, they bring with them a new issue to the world, right? And I wholeheartedly think that with all of the things that were happening in the world with the millennial generation, a value on uniqueness was very, very much so inflated. I think that I call it the age of individualism, and I want to give an immediate example about this. Everybody is seeking validation externally, more so than we have in the past, at least openly, right? Like we're more open about it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking shit about it. I think it's interesting to see the way that humanity is involved. I'm not saying this is bad, we should stop doing it, as we often do on the show, specifically with gatekeeping. But I 100% recognize that we've pole vaulted into this age of individualism where people are focused about themselves and their boundaries and their growth. And I think it's pretty cool to watch. I have had a personal transition to match that too later in my life, but I did. And it's interesting to see on the other side of it. But I 100% agree with you that does also lend to gatekeeping in terms of why it happens. What do you think, Silver?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, especially like the fact that it's a challenge to our culture with the uniqueness. I can't tell you how many times I've been at work and I've had people from all over the country tell me that they have somebody that looks just like me, like laughs just like me, like acts just like me, has the same sense of humor. I know that I am the best person that I am, but like that's happened at least 10 times in the past like 3 years. So I definitely know that the uniqueness of my qualities are not quite like there.
Well, and it stings a little, right? Like you're like, ah, shit, like because we put a lot of effort into. Well, and I think that comes down to a couple of things. We want to make sure, at least I personally want to make sure that I'm forging a path in the world that is my own, right? That I'm making decisions based on how I want to make them more or less, and that I'm not following the mold of somebody else, which I think comes back down to what Habanero was talking about there, about us valuing our uniqueness. And like I said, I think that that's okay. I think that a lot of that comes from our parents growing up or our role models. If you know, we didn't have the privilege of living with our parents, telling us that we can be anything that we want to be if we set our mind to it, because like they worked really, really hard to make sure that we had those opportunities, right? We're talking about the Gen X, whether or not they admit to it, really did feel the first crunch from baby boomers closing their death grip on our ecosystem, right? Like that was the wrong word. What's the financial stuff? Economy. So like they really did feel the pinch there, right? That's when 40 hours a week stopped being able to pay for a family of 3 people in cars, about like right on the end of that parenting. So I know a lot of parents who are working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table for their kids. And that like, they really wanted to make sure that effort paid off, because by their kids having the best life that they possibly could. So I think, and that's where actually participation trophies come in. As much as people talk shit about millennials saying, oh, you're the participation trophy generation. That's true. But who gave us the fucking trophies, dude? We were kids, right? Like if we cried and asked for a trophy, you're the dumb motherfucker that gave it to us, instead of saying, sometimes you lose, sometimes you lose like everybody else, instead of saying, you know what, you're awesome, you're special, and this is why they say snowflake, right? So that I 100% agree that we have pole vaulted into a culture of uniqueness, and I can totally see how it does lend itself to gatekeeping. So how do we address that? How do we address not gatekeep? And I think we should also hat tip to how much human tribalism as a human nature plays into uniqueness too, especially like you and Habanero highlighted our culture, it being several people, then it becomes a threat to the status quo. You know what I mean? Then it becomes a threat to a person's comfort and safety, at least on the fight versus flight side of things, and not necessarily on the logical side of things. Newness kind of is scary, right?
Well, it's funny because like the status quo is like, you all are these mindless consumers. You all are looking to look the same, act the same, buy the same things, wear the same things. But we're also talking about challenging our uniqueness,
right?
So it's an interesting dynamic between like challenging the uniqueness and trying to break the status quo, but also living in a world where the status quo basically sets up to where you can be successful or can't be successful. Like that causes like gatekeeping in like businesses for hiring. Like, oh, I don't want to hire this person because they have tattoos and I think that looks unprofessional. Or I don't want to hire like people looking at names on resume and be like, oh, not that name, it's too difficult to work with, or not the ethnicity that I want working here. So they've tossed them in the trash. So it's definitely about breaking that status quo and actually getting through it.
Well said. Well fucking said. So to encapsulate, to make sure I demonstrate working understanding what you're saying, you said that one of the ways that we can fight our need for uniqueness in the world these days, to lending to our gatekeeping, is to be more accepting of things that are not necessarily aligned with ourselves.
Yeah.
On a broad term, right?
Yeah, and like breaking into your uniqueness and out of the status quo is going to give you that view that we've been talking about, that understanding of okay, these are the options and the directions that I can go. So that's the lead up to actually having that head popping moment.
Okay, fair. I see. Well, and I have a personal experience that relates to kind of what Habanero said and kind of what you're saying in terms of solution too, in that like archery for me, anybody who knows me knows that's my fucking jam down to my goddamn name, right? Like if it's something related to archery, I'm fucking there. But as I realized that was my thing, my niche, the thing that I wanted to focus on as I went through life, the thing that constantly brought me happiness and I never got tired of no matter how much time I put into it, which I never thought would happen as somebody with ADHD, by the way. So that's kind of why I love it so much. It's the one thing that my mind couldn't move away from. Everything else is like, oh, that's cool. Next, right? Like in the famous words of Ariana Grande, thank you. Next. But like archery is the one thing that stuck around. So that's my thing. And it's my thing because it's my thing. That's what I like when you do spiritual shit in terms terms of past life, like I know I was in a line of archers shooting shit, dude. Like I knew I was hunting with the bow. I knew that the bow has been a staple of my life for my being. Like it's a core part of who I am. So to that level, I recognized fairly recently actually that I had a subconscious, until it wasn't anymore, thanks therapy, a subconscious animosity towards other people who were huge fans of archery, and it created an immediate competitive nature for me to BZT another person, maybe not externally, but at least internally, on how much I loved and was skilled at archery versus how much this new person I met was archery. You are a fantastic example because you also fucking love archery, right? And I can already think, like, as soon as I had this breakthrough moment with my fucking therapist, you actually popped into mind of people that I've had conversations with before where what the point of the conversation in my mind was to make me feel better about my security with my archery knowledge, right? So it did lend to gatekeeping. And I've thought of other examples before of streamers that have come across who had like a bow, like an archer in their profile, and it's like, oh, how much does this person really like archery, right? And it was something else to realize that I definitely, if not externally, definitely internally, because that's a big part of who I am, gatekept people from my biggest passion, which is archery, in terms of invalidating how much they put into it and how much they enjoyed it, because I wanted to be the best at it. I wanted to be the greatest at it. I still do. I want to be a gold medalist archer. Maybe I will someday. I've seen old people in the Olympics. I believe it's possible. But the point is, I when I recognized, thanks therapy, that was happening, I kind of broke down a little bit, and I was like, shit, there's like all of this shit that I've done. And it lends to what you were talking about earlier in terms of like recognizing that there was an issue, and that once you recognize that it happens, it's easier to interrupt. You know what I mean? It's easier to stop it from happening, or to make sure that it doesn't happen going forward. But to lend into what you said about your solution, how it's helped me is to recognize that another person who loves archery is not a competitor towards my uniqueness. It's quite the opposite. In fact, it's another person who enjoys a hobby at any level, even if it's the tiniest level, even if they bought a starter bow and arrow set from Samick off of Amazon for $138 on Black Friday and shoot in their backyards every 6 months. Like, that person's interest in archery is just as valid. And in fact, the fact that person has spent any time doing archery gives them a really strong bond into who I am. You know what I mean?
Right. It's an instant connection you can make with somebody. And just as a clarification for you, those conversations you had with me were 100% saved by the fact that, for me, I have like a hunger to listen to people's passions. And like, you're so passionate when you talk about archery that I get lost in your level of excitement for the subject. So, and that's the same way I am. That's why I end up unintentionally gatekeeping for myself when I talk about things like anime or magic, because I'm a big propagator of it too, which is definitely something that I need to worry about, or not necessarily worry about, but keep an eye out for. Is you can definitely unintentionally gatekeep,
right?
Even though you understand the concept, you can still unintentionally gatekeep.
Yeah, it happens. Well, and I think that brings us to a good point in terms of what we do if we recognize that we did something after the fact. And we've kind of talked about like accountability previously on the show, in terms of like, you know, making sure that a person holds themselves accountable for the things that they've done that they don't necessarily want to represent in their current lives, and like how to apologize. We've been over that in the stream, right? So I think that the point is that you're right that we can still make those mistakes, but to err is human, right?
Right.
It's about what we do after the error that kind of defines us there. So well said. And so that really, so to kind of lend into what Habanero is saying, so we can say, here we go. So if you're the top, be humble. If you're be quiet, realize that a common interest is a blessing. Realize that common interest is a blessing is the takeaway to add to the conclusion of that for gatekeeping coming from a need. We should just say gatekeeping coming from human tribalism. Is that racist to say tribalism? Because I know
So.
I got hollered at once for saying tribal knowledge. They said that was racist. So would that mean tribalism?
I don't know. Let's look up tribalism.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna Google it right now. Let's do is
Hell yeah, that's a really good way of putting that, Rad.
tribalism. Here we go. Is the word tribalism racist? Let's catch up on chat. Perhaps that's the key to opening the gates, being excited or sharing the excitement for passions of others. Abso-fucking-lutely. Well, and let's put that to a couple of the examples that we had before. If you and Torgoth were trying to get into a DBZ game and you rolled into a shop where people beat the shit out of you, but they also pointed out things that they would have done in your situation with those cards, and they got excited that you were there. And I'll give you, actually, I'm not going to stack these examples, but to finish it, they showed you all of these cool things and they got really excited that there were these new people and they're like, check out this DBZ game. Do you think that you would have kept playing if not gone back or shared it with your fucking friends?
Oh no, those types of atmospheres are what electrify me. I would have been like, these guys are awesome. They're way better than me. It's time to knuckle down. I'm going to get better. Would have been 100% different because that's what happened to me with Magic. When I first got into Magic, I got pub stomped for probably the first 4 months that I played with the group that I played with.
Okay.
But they were all super nice. They helped me craft things. They enjoyed my company. They weren't jerks about beating me, even though they weren't pulling punches.
That's cool.
So it was a good atmosphere. I enjoyed it, and with my competitive nature, it made me want to just get better so that I could give them something more fun to do and have challenge, and B, so that it was just a more enjoyable atmosphere because nobody you can beat bots to death, but it's nothing like beating an actual person.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, and I mean, you've also done this for me. I'll give you a good example. Apex Legends. For those of you who have played Apex with me or have seen me play Apex on stream, the only reason I'm even okay at that game is because of Silver right here. Silver took the time to be really excited when I first downloaded League of Legends, lost his fucking mind about telling me how to optimize my movement speed and how to aim the guns and where the best hiding spots were, and got really fucking pumped about sharing something he was already so good at with me that it made me want to continue doing it. So much so that I spent a shit ton of my off time that we weren't playing trying to get good at the game so I could share in his excitement for the game, exactly like you're saying and exactly how Rad is saying in chat.
I gotta check myself sometimes because you can be overwhelming.
I know.
Oh man, I sometimes when I dive into like anime theory and stuff, oh man, it's a deep rabbit hole, and and I get to be especially with Alicia, she has to listen to me rattle on about 30 different animes and 30 different stories, and I know deep inside she's like, but we're watching this one.
Yeah. Well, and I have also been on that receiving end of your anime suggestion. I finished Demon Hunter, by the way.
Super good.
Yeah, I can't fucking wait for the movie to come out. You're right that they did set it up for the movie perfectly, but it's not fair how I am on the edge with anticipation.
The movie's already out, by the way.
But in Japan, right? I've heard that they have not subbed it yet.
I'm pretty sure I could find a sub somewhere. Yeah, Alicia's laughing.
All right, well, you let me know. What's up, Pink? Good to see you. The point is that yes, that is very, very good point. I tried to I do that when I try to teach people video games. Actually, after I realized that common interest is a blessing, I actually slowed down way slower, harder. better, faster, stronger. But I slowed down a lot with how much advice or opinions I gave people on things until it was solicited. Specifically, archery, World of Warcraft. Anytime somebody tried to play World of Warcraft, I actually caught myself doing it to Fellowship of Awesome a couple of months ago. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna play WoW," and I like DM'd them all of the shit like, "Here's what you should do to play WoW," and I imagine their phone went ping, 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 ping. Like same fucking deal, dude. So yeah,
I'm definitely going to be in that boat soon, but the difference is that I want that.
Yeah, it'd be nice. They actually have the first major content patch for their current expansion coming out, and I got chills when I watched the last teaser trailer for it. So I know that you mentioned that you want to play it. I'm not playing it these days. I'm playing Guild Wars 2 and Apex Legends, but I have not unsubbed from WoW, and I've been keeping very close eye on it. I actually got my character, like he's pretty high gear. He's like 215, and the mythic dungeons that we were talking about drop 223 gear, but the highest you can get after that, like if you're not super good at PvP, is heroic at 210. So like 215 is pretty good, right? Like I'm ready for the next content patch, but I just parked my character. This is the point where Blizzard is like, "Hey, so I noticed that you're done with that character. You know you have infinite character slots on this realm, right? How about start an alt and pay us $15 a month?" I just parked my character and played a different game. So yeah, I'm ready for you when you want to come play WoW. I'm totally down to fucking wreck things with you.
I'm so ready.
It's
I'm
gonna
gonna play a tank. I'm gonna play a tank to your DPS. It's gonna be great.
I'm gonna drag you into Guild Wars 2 also, by the way.
You already have.
Yeah, I know, but I mean back into Guild Wars 2. Because that is a community, much like I'm trying to do with the Ampguard community in terms of trying to stay positive and show people that, you know, the LARPers aren't all jerks, and like, you know, trying to contribute positively through attitude in the community. I'm trying to do the same thing in Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 is like a match that's wisping in the wind, right? It's like, do I want to go out? It's like your last match and you're on an island surrounded by palm trees and you have this nice pile of dead palm leaves, but it's a little windy outside, and if you don't get this match lit, then you're going to freeze to death. So
and
like,
you need this beard for it to catch fire.
I need that glorious beard. And also in ranked in that game, you can only duo. So I need a duo partner who's not a dum-dum and speaking of gatekeeping, who's not a dum-dum to help me climb that top 250 ladder.
But if you're willing to help me learn, then it's not gatekeeping.
But I am gatekeeping the other people who I'm not teaching in favor of waiting for my friend to join and download the game.
That is also fair.
Yeah. Anyway, so speaking of being humble when you're at the top of something, well, I think that we have a pretty good conclusion. I want to start to transition into talking about you and what your goals and hopes are. Oh, fuck, I took that out of the itinerary, didn't I? What an idiot, dude. Hey, do you have the itinerary up by chance?
I do.
Okay, hang tight for me. I am going to copy over a bunch of questions so that you could... I'm going to steal it from X-Ray, so it's not going to have your name on it.
That's fine.
But just so you can kind of see ahead what we're going to talk about here when we talk about your thing. So just to kind of rubber band a little bit. So how do you and the rest of the archers feel about the conclusion that we have so far, which is be considerate and mindful in regards to your passions, I would say. To your passions. If you're at the top, be humble or be quiet. Realize that common interest is a blessing. Anything you would change?
And I think the just adding the overarching theme of your stream with Sunday Tea is be kind, rewind. I mean, be kind.
Be kind, rewind. Who would have known? The person who like, and we'll never know who it actually was, but the person who sat there and had that rhyme first in their head probably feels like a real badass. At least they did throughout the 80s and 90s where that sign was fucking everywhere, huh? Like, hey, I came up with that first. I want something about being excited in there. Okay. So be humble, be mindful. Ooh. Oh,
hey, my sister's in the chat. Hey, Sam.
Hi, Sam. Be excited not to... Oh, here we go. Goth, how about this? How about we do be excited about the blessing that is common interest. Thanks, Grammar. How do we feel about that? I know I'm sitting near the conclusion, but I just realized that my new schedule means I can show up more. Good, Pink. You better get your ass in here, damn it. You like that, Torgoth? How do you feel about that, Silver?
Yeah, absolutely. Just the act of being excited about sharing excitement. Like all this is having a good time and sharing games and good times with other people. There's no reason to not be excited that other people can have the same things you do.
Well said. Well fucking said. Rad asks, is it gatekeeping or is it a boundary thing? Maybe some people don't want to go through the gate or don't want to be pulled through it. Yeah, but the biggest thing that somebody's ever taught me in therapy, Rad, is that you're not responsible for the growth and emotions of the people around you. You're not. The only thing that you have control over is yourself. But I think recognizing, I think you're saying, you're like highlighting what we were talking about earlier in terms of not being overwhelming. Like if recognizing a person's boundaries in terms of not flooding them or being overexcited about something if they only have a modicum of interest is what you're saying, right? That's
pretty sure
my interpretation after thinking about it for a second. So I like that. So I think so I'm going to copy and paste this into chat. I think that's covered, Rad, through be considerate and mindful in regards to your passions. Because you would be considerate and mindful of that person's boundaries, no? But I do really appreciate that you highlighted that specifically because it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very important. All right, so it sounds like we're enjoying the conclusion. Sounds like we're pumped about it, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you for being willing to come on here and gab with me for 90 minutes, if you can believe it's been that long already, about gatekeeping and about how it applies to nerddoms and some of the things that we can do about it. With the help of you and the archers, I think we've come up with a pretty solid conclusion on advice to offer folks who have just recognized that gatekeeping is a thing and who maybe are looking for help in what to do about it, right? So, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, well, let's transition into something I know that makes you extremely uncomfortable. Let's talk about yourself. No. Swing and a miss. They can't all be winners, ladies and gentlemen. So we kind of mentioned a little bit, and your brand is Silver Smoke. If you say Silver Smock in chat, you will get banned. I really love the interaction that we had when that happened separately, right? And I think it's really awesome. So for those of you who don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, me and Silver were playing a game and somebody called Silver Smock, because Silver has been creative with the way that the word is spelled. And I messaged Silver right after and said, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how close were you to changing your name after that person called you Silver Smock? And he says, like 8. I think it was a high number. And then I told him, this is my advice to him. I probably unsolicited because I'm a fiend for that, I guess. It was, it's okay if you want to change your name. If you don't, because every person's brand as they create content is gonna have a dark side of the moon to it, right? Everyone's gonna say something about your name or fuck it up in a way that really pisses you off and just specifically gets under your skin and excuse me, no one else's. Mine would be Bowborne. As an example, drives me up the fucking wall when somebody says Bowborne, so much so that if I raid a new streamer, I did this all the time in Guild Wars 2, where I would take the hundreds of people that were in there and then just fucking raid a smaller streamer. And the second they said Bowborne, I'd click the fucking stream off. Like, fuck it. Speaking of gatekeeping. But I would just, fuck this. I'm out. It's not Bowborne, goddammit. It's Bo. It's clearly Bo. My whole chat is spamming a bunch of fucking archers in your chat, and you still said Bowborne? Nobody's bowing. They're all shooting a bow, goddammit. But then the thing that you told me was that you were going to keep it, and I was super fucking pumped about it. So that's pretty awesome, dude.
No, I definitely like the aesthetic that I'm going with.
Yeah, you're enjoying Silver Smoke. So let's go. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Oh, Sam said that's totally how I read it. You monster, Sam. Welcome to the stream, but how dare you? Archers, if you are sub in chat, let's go ahead and spam the emote here to show Sam what we're about here in Sunday tea with Bowborne and the Archers. Oh man, I'm just typing a bunch of buttons now. There's a hype heart regular emote with arrows in it. I just accidentally clicked on some that weren't my emote, but they're pretty cool. So Bowborne, like shit Bowborne. No, Rad ban. Somebody ban Rad. Can I get a mod? Can I get a ban on Rad? Don't actually do that. That would be pretty funny though. How do I close this? Close. I can't see my chat. What is happening? Why is this so difficile? Wow, the Twitch interface is not crushing it right now, is it? Anyway, so let's get into you a little bit. So why Silver Smoke? What is the draw to the brand name Silver Smoke?
I don't know. I just something specifically about the aesthetic of oak trees has always been something that I've really enjoyed.
Oh my god, dude, I feel like a fucking
idiot. What?
Okay, it was not until this exact moment that I realized a reference to an oak tree, bro.
Why do you think I changed the spelling of the word?
I'll be honest, because I thought that because a million people had the fucking name Silver Smoke, so that's why I thought it was because. Yeah, and I feel like even more of an idiot because the fucking O is capitalized.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's the reason why our group thing in Apex is smoking forest.
Oh my god! Guess what? I'm gonna capitalize it on the fucking. Oh my god! What an idiot, dude! I feel so stupid. Oh Jesus Christ! That's hilarious. You were good at it.
But that's also the reason why, like, I had like Ian do the commission for me with like the
oak tree, dude. The ends. Oh fuck! Yeah. It's so much cooler now that I know that. Silver. It's so much cooler. At first, I was like, okay, man, you do you. I love it. I love the creativity, but now I love it even more. I feel like a fucking idiot.
So, yeah, but I've always loved the aesthetic. I've loved the largeness, the vastness. And I used to like learn how to juggle and stuff with acorns when I was a little kid.
That's dope. So you have a strong connection with oak trees, is what you're saying?
I spent a lot of time at the local park I believe it was on Wanda Street, like 1 block away from my house, hanging out under a really big oak tree right next to the like playground area and just messing with like acorns and stuff.
That's fucking cool, dude. So I guess I don't know. I'm not an arborist. Do acorns only come from oak trees?
No.
Do acorns from oak trees look the same as acorns from other trees?
It's different. It's the same way of saying like a seed from a different plant is the same. It's got different variants depending on what tree it comes from.
Oh, that makes sense. So
same way with like leaf shape and things like that.
Oh, okay, cool. That's awesome, dude. That's cool that you were able to take so many. So silver. So you're a big fan of the color silver, the material silver. Where's silver coming from?
In general, silver or gray is actually my favorite color.
Oh, interesting.
I've always loved like grayscale art and things like that, and grayscale tattoos, and it's always been like a preferred aesthetic of mine. That also being said, it's the reason why I have such a fascination with actual smoke. It is my favorite color, and it's just it's a constantly changing like thing in the light. And it goes through all the spectrums of my favorite color.
Okay. Speaking of, we'll be feeding the fish.
Right.
Well, that's fucking cool, dude. I think that's a really neat way to encapsulate a lot of the things that you love, a lot of your passions. I also have the same question that Torgot does. I think we know the answer.
I play Sub-Zero.
But you have a secret place in your heart for smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still can't believe me. Who's Clever Orbit? Is that somebody who beats your ass regularly in Mortal Kombat?
I am not actually sure.
Well, I'm interested to know what that person's talking about then, because now I'm a little bit motivated through my competitiveness, Well, that's cool. Yeah, that's really awesome. That's a really good.
Oh, it's Jake.
From State Farm?
Yes, that is a person that I've played countless hours of both Injustice and
Mortal Kombat. I remember watching y'all play Mortal Kombat. That shit blew my fucking mind, dude.
It was a constant battle between his Scorpion and my Sub-Zero, like
I
for
remember.
like 2 hours straight.
Fucking crazy. It was really fun to watch y'all play Mortal Kombat while we were fucking lit though, right? Like as a spectator to that, fighting games are way cooler when you're high as shit, dude. Well, that's awesome, dude. So, okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about, we didn't really even dig into tribalism that much, but Rad kind of encapsulated it pretty well in chat.
Absolutely.
So let's talk more about your content. You said that you have a PC on the way. It sounds like you already have a lot of ideas for content. What is going to be the things that you create? What's your medium?
So for me, it's I'm going to be using Twitch as just come hang out with me while I gather content for a YouTube channel. So it's mostly going to be YouTube content.
Oh, cool.
So I'm looking at doing like let's plays for like first person shooters, like the games that we play together pretty regularly.
Oh, cool. Okay.
As well as I've been doing writing for the past over a year now, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to turn into a narrated story that I'm going to put on the channel. I have a D&D group that I was looking at doing storyline stuff with as well.
Right.
So
I remember you
I've
talking
got
about
a lot of really, really decent ideas to look forward to that. And also looking at doing like Arbor Day stuff and reforestation efforts
for
as
the
like
oak
charity events. Yep.
I feel like such an idiot, dude. I feel like such an idiot.
So like this, if I do end up putting my best foot forward and I do end up doing anything, I want to make sure that I use that to do good things,
like to contribute too. That's really awesome. And I mean, and honestly, it's cool to know that even going into it, you already have a plan on how to use your platform responsibly. You know, if your platform grows, you know what I mean? Like, I only say if, not to gatekeep you as an example, but to say like those things go, you could get halfway into an episode of editing, and I don't suspect this will happen, but it's happened to some people, where you get halfway into editing an episode of something, you're like, fuck this, I don't want to do this anymore, right? And so like your interest could change or whatever the case may be. But like, that's cool to hear that, like, all right, let's switch it to be optimistic because it makes me feel better and warm and fuzzy inside. When you get a huge ass platform, that you are going to use it responsibly and to use it to contribute to the betterment of the world, to leave the world a better place than you found it. And I know you're the oak things makes so much sense now, knowing that you're a huge fucking nature fanatic, dude. And that you're always out there with the trees and shit and the water. It just blows my fucking mind. Jesus Christ. Well, yeah, right? Right, I agree. Oh, well, that's really neat, dude. So, are you writing all of these ideas down?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's the one thing I wish I would have done. There was a TikTok. Oh, I should fucking make that TikTok. There's a TikTok.
I actually started writing it down because of you.
Really?
Yeah. We had this conversation like a year ago when I first started asking about your like platform and how you started doing things, and you specifically said one thing I wish I knew when I started was to start writing down the ideas I have for content so that I can make sure that when I come back to it, it is like ready to go.
Yeah, well, fuck. Well, that's awesome. That's still true to this day. So that's good news that even though I've smoked a bunch of, my new favorite phrase for it would now be jazz cabbage, as Clever Orbit said in chat. Clever Jake. It's Jake.
Yeah. Clever Jake.
That jazz cabbage. So I'm glad that has held true for me, because that's still like, now I write down everything religiously still, and like it's only made it better. But there's a TikTok that was, hey, what's one thing that you wish you would have known when you started streaming? And mine would definitely be write everything down. I just saw that Svente said hi earlier in chat by calling me a legend, and he even, when we were talking about my name, and I just looked at it because like one of the things I have an issue with in chat is when people's names are the same color, right? So like I read it all as one person said something, but it was like three people with the same color and name saying three different things. So I was like, I forgot to say, hey person, welcome to the stream, because I thought I already welcomed that person to the stream because their name's the same color as somebody else. Sorry. Quick side tangent. Anyway, so yeah, that's I want to give a huge homage out to everybody in chat, like Sam and Clever here, who were saying that you enjoy the trees and you enjoy the trees. That's awesome. That, you know, all of the people who fall prey to my longbow in Apex Legends very much so enjoy the clan tag that we have for the smoking forest, which is THC. And people are always like, huh, THC, nice. I'm like, yeah, dude. Pink said that they are terrible about writing everything down, but they do it sometimes. Well, do it every time. And I don't tell people what to do very often, but do that. Like, just do it. I actually have, for my Android, I had a Note. I use Samsung Note. I had it on a hotkey, double tap the side button, and it opens to my things you should write down tab. And then I go back through and sort that tab later, right? Like, just write this down. And then when I have a quick second, I'll go over the Note, and then I'll copy and paste those into their various little categories there, because I'm a data science nerd. Oh, but now that the iPhone, same thing, Notes tab, blam. Notes, just write it down. Same shit. Like, it doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. I have woken up from the brink of sleep to scramble over to my phone and write down an idea because I was afraid that I would forget it. And because, like I told Silver here, that at the beginning of my streaming career, I had what I felt was like fantastic, like the shooting thing, bro. I could have been doing that like 2 years fucking sooner if I would have written it the fuck down. The one with the tree, says Sam. Right. My note page, Sashuna, exactly. So, and that kind of catapults us into the kind of the next topic. Well, kind of. So speaking of you getting a huge platform, what are some of the goals that you have for your content? What are you trying to accomplish? What kind of, is this like just a creative outlet for you, or are you trying to like make it big PewDiePie style? What's going on here?
Well, to be honest, the main, to tie like our actual topic back into this, that this is an outlet for me, so I'm not being overwhelming to the people in my life. I can be overwhelming to the camera. I can be overwhelming to my channel. And if people don't want to watch, they don't want to listen, they can always click off.
Yeah. So it's like, oh fuck, that's awesome, dude.
It's just a way for me to, I've always had this like bit of anxiety in the back of my head whenever I'm giving my talking about the things that I'm passionate about, because I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to be over the top about things and to drive people away, because I have that much of a love for it. So this would be a good way for me to put it out, polish it, make it look nice. And if people enjoy it, those are going to be the people that vibe with that same level of like passion for that piece or that thing that I'm doing, and then I can have that heated kind of conversation with them.
Oh, with somebody who's already prepared and already researched and knowledgeable on the topic to have that conversation. I see what you mean. That's cool. Well, and so it sounds kind of like you're looking to build a community of like-minded individuals on whatever topic you may have, and it sounds like you have a wide variety of different topics based on what we talked about earlier in terms of what the kind of content we're going to be seeing from you is. So that's pretty cool, and that's just as a quick nod to our previous topic of gatekeeping. That's like a really awesome way for you to be mindful and considerate, and like Rad said, to make sure that you're respecting people's boundaries, because consent is an important thing. And I truly do believe from a content creator standpoint that a person's continued consumption of content is consent for what the content is. Right now, obviously there are lines there, like just because a person's watching your YouTube video doesn't mean, or you can like flash to really explicit content or traumatizing content and then like signed up for that, right? Like clearly based on what you're leading with in terms of like what the title and description and tags are, like that's what people are expecting to see. So if they see that, you're 100% right that if they begin to feel overwhelmed with the information that you are presenting, if they begin to feel that way, then they could just fucking leave. And that's a big part of my stream actually too. That's why I put on the mature content filter, because if you're in the stream, I expect you to be an adult and I expect you to behave like a fucking adult, because that's the standards that I set here. And I fully expect every single person to, if this is not something that they vibe with, you can leave the stream and you'll find somebody on Twitch that you'll vibe with and that you'll really enjoy watching, because this platform has tens of thousands of streamers. Silver here is going to be on YouTube, same deal, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of different content creators that you can go and vibe with. So you don't have to be a fucking Karen in somebody's chat or somebody's comment sections. Just fuck off and find something that you do enjoy. Like it's there for you.
Yeah, and my channel is going to definitely be kind of a hodgepodge thing. Like I have so many things that I love, like that I want to talk about and do. Anime reviews, like magic building guides or deck listings, or pack openings. There's so many different things that I want to do that, like, a lot of people go to a specific channel for specific content.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm just gonna try and bring people in that vibe with anything that I vibe with. It's just gonna be, I don't know. It's gonna be me in a digital format, I guess.
That's cool, dude. Well, and like Sashun said in chat, it's listening to you rant about things excitedly. I think it's pretty cool. I like learning from you. My mind also like jumps around stuff fast, and you're pretty good with like fielding questions that I throw out of you out of nowhere. And like, you're pretty cool about, sometimes I have a habit of coming to the conclusion of what a person is going to say before words can actually form the sentence of what the thing is. So you're good about letting me pause and say, hey, is this what you're getting at? And you're saying yes. And then we move on to the next thing. And like, so yeah, I think that that is a fan-fucking-tastic platform for you. Well, and I've already seen a lot of the outcomes of your creativity. Like I've seen some of your handcrafted handiwork in terms of the LARPing stuff, for example. I've seen your creativity in terms of your deck building ideas for Magic. Some of the ideas you get blow my fucking mind, dude. Like, what the fuck? The creativity in your Apex Legends hiding spots, I think to myself, how the fuck did you even find this place? Right? Like, so clearly you've, like, I've seen from you personally a huge variety of different expressions of creativity. I'm really excited to see how you shape that into content to be consumed. I think that's going to be really fucking cool.
I'm really excited. Like I said, I'm looking to not necessarily become anything special or to grow anything, but I do want to like bring the people that enjoy and vibe with me as a person together as like a small outside family that I can access and kind of gush on the things that I enjoy. And hopefully they'll be part of that Smoking Forest community, be a part of the group of scions and everything that are going to be around.
Yeah. Do you have a YouTube link?
I do not right now.
Okay, so you said you're waiting for, so everybody, just as a recap, Silver Smoke is incoming on a PC, and we'll have a lot of this stuff set up. Make sure to check the description of this video when it's on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube now, hi, future me. Make sure that you check the description to get the link for Silver Smoke's stuff. Fucking Oak, dude. Oh, I'm such a dummy. That's gonna haunt me for the rest of my days, Silver. The rest of my days. So yeah, make sure but good question, Rad, for sure. Facebook plug would be good when it comes around. Oh, good idea. I'm gonna assume that's also Jake. I'm glad that you found your old account information.
I do have a Instagram right now. I'm pretty sure I also have a Facebook.
I got the Instagram for you. Okay.
But I'll also make posts with the links to everything else that'll cross over once everything gets loaded up and ready. So the next about month, once I get the PC, is going to be me streaming and doing the gathering of content, and then I'll start editing and putting everything together.
That's cool. Okay, so kind of coming to the end. So couple quick questions. I have tips and advice. Would you like them in regards to what's going on here? Okay, so from what I've seen here, just as an example, I recommend that you don't use this Instagram, that you make a new one with a URL, or if you can change your URL to not personally identifiable information. For your Instagram, right? And then your YouTube channel, I would make a Gmail account. I would make a PayPal. I would take your name, Silver Smoke, and I would put it on, check all of the streams, watch YouTube, all of these other platforms that other people are. Just spend a day, because you have a laptop, right? Like, that's what we're talking on right now. Use that and then go make all of these things right now, just right now. That way, when you actually do get your computer, all you have to do is link those things to the accounts that you make for your computer and get going. You don't have to spend the extra couple of days doing that, right? So,
well, I mean, I have made the Gmail. I do have the Facebook page, the Twitter page. I just don't have the links readily available on me.
Sure. Well, and that's my next piece of advice is there are websites that make that very, very easy. I use Linktree. I will be moving away from Linktree in the future because they are very much so software as a service or service as a service or whatever. They're very monetized. I'm probably going to switch to something like Beacons, or I saw somebody use My Links or whatever. There are a fuck ton of websites that you have one link and you click it and it will give you an entire list of all of the links that you have, every single one of them. And it's super fucking useful. And then when you get that link, you put it on every single one of these platforms. That's the link that you put on there. Like YouTube, as you probably know, will give you options to link specifically Facebook and Instagram, and obviously do give those the actual links, but also have one centralized location where you can find all of your links. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Like a spreadsheet or something.
Yeah. Or and that's my last piece of advice is when you make your Gmail, if you don't have it already, start a Google Drive and start putting all of these ideas in there. Or even if you want to use Dropbox and Notepad, if you want to be like our friend Torgoth, who's basically living in the 80s computing world. Or OneNote. I use OneNote for a lot of ideas, like somewhere where you can cloud access all of your stream stuff. I use Google Drive because I also put all of my stream files in there, like all of my art. I put all of my stream files for like the streamer program, like chatbot, all my chatbot preferences, all my templates for the different text settings on the screen. Like all of those are all in Google Drive, one central location. So like if shit all collapses, I'm not out. You know what I mean? I just when the new computer comes here, I just import everything like it was and get going again. I think, and that brings me to my last piece of advice. And you and I've already talked about this advice before. You've heard it a million fucking times, but like, there's always going to be reasons not to do things, especially when your computer comes. Just fucking press the live button if you're going to do streaming, right? Or like take that list, that brilliant list of ideas that you write down and just start working through it. Even if the way that you're making spend 5 minutes doing it, just 5, limit yourself to 5 minutes doing one of the ideas, and you'll find so many things to add to that idea. And then you'll just, I know you already, you'll catapult yourself into that whole topic and it'll be done. Even if the YouTube content is not there, even if it's not edited like you want it to be, it's still going to be recorded. It's still going to be created. It's going to be there for you to use when you're ready to create that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's a lot of it is all about, and I think that I'm not really well equipped because you mentioned that your main platform is going to be YouTube. I'm not really well equipped to offer any platform specific advice, unfortunately, because I'm just in the beginning throes of my YouTube content myself, so much so that like editing videos is a lot of my time. It turns out that why don't you sit down and learn editing videos from YouTube helps a lot, right? Like I've learned a shit ton about how to do shit in I got Premiere Pro because I'm a bougie bitch.
Me too.
It's lovely, isn't it? And I like learning all that stuff. I'm still new to it as well, so I'm sure you and I can like I'll probably ask you questions because you've been fucking with it a little bit longer than I have. And vice versa. So I don't really have any platform specific advice. So here's a fun question that evens all of that advice out. What criticisms do you have for me, or what advice do you have for me, or anything that you've seen that you could see improve? This is a new thing that I want to start doing. You're more or less a guinea pig, but I like it.
I mean, for the most part, you're one of the main reasons why I wanted to really like do it myself. Like, not to like gush or push off on you, but like, you're one of the inspirations as to the reason why streaming feels accessible to me. The same way that you said that you were worried about like being gatekeepish towards like archery and things like that, you definitely were not when it comes to like platform and being a presence on actual like online and media and just being yourself. So you do that really, really well. I mean, the only thing that I personally would wish would be like a consistent streaming schedule, but that's
fucking
about
same,
it.
dude. Well, and I will say that with the exception of last Thursday, which I slept through, and I'm not sorry for, I needed to sleep, it was a long day. I have been pretty good about Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 8 p.m. Mountain and Sundays at 11. Don't get me wrong, I'm plus or minus 10 to 15 minutes on each one, but I think as all things come together, it's getting easier to adhere to the schedule. So, no, I totally agree with you, man. That's one of the things I'm aiming to improve on. So I'm glad.
Yeah, if I had to nitpick,
sure. Well, I'm kind of asking you too. So thing. Yeah. Well, I've been thinking about I starting at 8 p.m. on the weeknights is late. but also like that's what time I become free to sit down and do things after cooking dinner, after working out, after wrapping up work and taking the dog for
Right.
a run. You know what I mean? Like, oh man. But yes, I couldn't agree more. Thank you for sharing that. Then that helps me too, because it validates my own self-criticism. I was talking to another friend about this earlier. Actually, I think I don't remember. I ramble a lot often, at least every Sunday. And I was talking to another friend about how the come back. The gardener came by with the fucking oh shit. What was I talking about?
You were talking about you had a friend that you were talking about something with.
What were we talking about before that?
Now I'm lost too.
Nitpicking. Okay, so I was talking to a friend about how a lot of people have self-criticisms. Imposter syndrome is running rampant. Thank you, by the way. You saved us from the mean gardener. I almost lost it again. That would have been so fucking funny. How imposter syndrome like really affects a lot of us, and how we're our own worst critics and beat the shit out of ourselves. And so I need help through a little bit of outside opinion sometimes, making sure that something I'm being critical of is actually a valid criticism that I can use to improve and grow, and not just me that I'm actually doing something okay at and beating myself up over. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like, thank you for being brave enough to actually share even the nitpicky stuff. Like, it helps me, and that honestly helps me build accountability too, to know that other people recognize that. Like, it's going to help me build a fire under my ass to actually wake up in time and try and actually, get to stream on time on the weeknights or whatever the case may be. And to be more, my other personal criticism that is, and it does pertain to consistency with content creation, like you were saying, is making sure that I'm actually putting episodes out on time, the full episodes. The abridged versions are much harder for me, and I have looser expectations of, because this is where I'm practicing with my editing and my storyboarding, and making sure that I make a concise and entertaining video that also hits all of the points of 2 fucking hours worth of work. You know what I mean? So like I'm more flexible on the abridged ones, but more or less what I'm trying to say is that consistency in content creation also applies over there too, just as an example of me being self-critical, but also like making sure it's valid criticism and not just me beating the shit out of myself. Because I know that you do this, and I know I do this, and I know many of our friends do this. We're very self-deprecating.
Yeah.
We beat the shit out of ourselves. So I need help with aligning actual criticism, like I said, that I can grow from, and me just beating the shit out of myself. So
I think that's one of the reasons why we all get together and are friends like that,
Yeah.
The whole saying great recognizes great, like self-abusers recognize self-abusers.
That's fair. Well, I will say that our friends group, and I said this last week too, but our friends group is doing a pretty good job about making sure that we empathize with our friends being self-abusers, but also make it a point to force that person, which sounds terrible, but let me finish the sentence, to recognize 2 great things about themselves as well at the same time. I think that it's pretty cool that our friends group does that. I happened to me earlier this week as self-deprecating. Well, I wasn't intentionally, but it did breed that way. So, and somebody's like, hey, now you have to say 2 nice things about yourself, right? Like, that happens all the time in our friends group, and I really fucking love it. Really fucking love it. Catch up with chat here. Sam is talking about criticism. Rad said a good tip for us with the YouTube would be give ourselves time to edit. I totally agree, as somebody who doesn't do that and is suffering in content drought because of it.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, is like he's gonna have he has a pretty consistent 3-day-a-week streaming schedule. I'm probably gonna have a pretty consistent 2-day-a-week streaming schedule and a day set aside solidly for editing content.
Smart, dude. Smart. Well, and that's why I only do 3 days a week, is because Monday and Friday I edit. And because like the show is so much content, dude. Like I filled the terabyte hard drive so fucking fast. So fucking fast. It's ridiculous. But yeah, no, okay, cool. Well, yeah, let's start to kind of to wind it down here. But there's some one question I want to ask before I forget, like I did with Bruff. How do you feel like the last 2 and change hours went?
It was really good. Like, talking with you is always just fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have fun talking to you too.
This is literally just talking with you and having a lot of more of our other friends and some of my family in the chat, like listening to us talk. So this was actually really enjoyable, and it went by really quick.
That's awesome to hear, because that is 150% the reason why I do it. It's not to get big and famous. I mean, obviously we are streaming to a worldwide platform here, so the eyes of the world are on us. But actually, the biggest thing for me was so I can have conversations with all of my friends at the same time. So I could tell all my friends, hey, this is where I'm going to be, and this is what I'm going to be doing. Please come join me if you have free time. And I think it's worked out quite well. So I want to directly in person thank you for taking the time with me today. I know that Sunday mornings are usually people's chill time, so it means a lot to me that you came on to the show and talked with me in chat. I agree with you that it went super fast. I also do always enjoy our conversations. We bounce, I feel like, really well off of each other.
That's why you're going to be a constant presence in all my videos.
Same, dude. It's going to be great. It is going to be fantastic. What any questions you have for me in terms of like things that you'd like to know about content creation that I might have experience on before we wrap it up? Anything you want to talk to chat about? Any shout outs you want to give to anybody?
Only question is, how can I better make people understand that there is a tree reference in my name?
Ooh, question. You know, I feel that's hard for me because I'm also battling imposter syndrome here, because I feel kind of stupid for missing it. Because it's one of those things that now that I see it, I feel dumb for not saying it sooner, you know? Let's see here. Let me think. Oh, what about chat? Well, I'm kind of floundering here. I don't know. Like I said, I feel dumb
That's fair.
for not noticing it sooner. Like, and
well, I'm also not unestablished, so like,
that's true.
None of the graphics are really there, so you haven't really seen all of it together. So I'm sure it'll be a little bit easier to place once everything is fully together.
Fair. Oh, I feel so dumb, dude. And I'm sure that like Rad and like you just said, once you like, I can already see logos kind of like yours, the one that you have with Torben Creations. There is like the end there. That's a pretty clear fucking indicator. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of what we were talking about when we talked about names and branding and stuff. Is sometimes you're going to give people all the hints in the world, like me with the archery emote, for example, and people are still going to fuck it up. I'm looking at you, Sam. I haven't forgotten. I hold a grudge. No. Did we get a ban on Sam? Did we get a ban in Sam on chat? Any mods? Get a ban on Sam. But yeah, no, I think that you're doing really great. I think it's just going to be up to people to recognize. One thing I will say is I do get the warm and fuzzies when people do recognize the bow reference in my name. So I will say that you do have to look forward to the people who don't miss that the first time like I did. And they're like, oh, oak, that's why you have the trees and that's why you have the acorns and all that shit everywhere, like in regards to forest. And that's why you do all the Arbor Day stuff. And oh, that makes sense. That's such a cool name. And then they'll just gush about how cool your fucking name is. And you didn't even tell them it is. Like, that will probably make all the times that people fuck it up worth it, but it's going to be like 1 in 100.
And it's that one that's like, I'm on an 8 scale to changing this thing.
Yeah, no, I mean the opposite. I mean, it's going to be 99 people who fuck up your name and 1 person who really gets it that makes it worth it.
And that's the person that's going to stay.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's the cool thing about the internet platform is that we have access to millions of people, if not billions. Well, I don't know. Do you think billions of, I would say at least 1 billion people have access to the internet.
Oh, I like inside jokes, Rad. That's a good take.
Oh, that's a good example. Yeah. I think it's going to be placed with your brand when you start to get, yeah, I agree with Sashuna, like you were saying too. I think that as you get some momentum and as you spend more time, well, and I would, I actually, as we talk about it, do have an idea. I would say make sure your brand is well represented within your content, right? Make sure that, and it sounds like you already have plans to do that, but like make sure that you make a point to include references to the ideology behind your brand in your content creation. Maybe not every video, because that's not always going to be possible, just like there's not a bow in every single game I want to play. But like where it is possible, you just crush it, right? Just really like knock it out of the park in terms of reference to your brand. And it sounds like, based on what you've told me specifically with like the Arbor Day and the Pay It Forward stuff, it sounds like you already have eyes on that kind of method,
And I think my access to content is going to be a little bit easier than your access to content when it comes to like not having a bow in it, because a lot of things are going to have trees in it.
There's so many things that have trees. Yeah. Well, and you could even go so far as to like rate different trees in different games, right? Like in MMOs, you can be like, this is how I feel about the oak representation in World of Warcraft. This is how I feel about the oak representation in Guild Wars 2, or whatever the case may be, right? Just find ways to highlight your brand through your content. And like Sashuna was saying, the brand will help build itself.
Alien trees, they speak to me. They just don't speak a language I understand.
Yeah, see, you're already on it. You already like, yeah, I think that would be how I would say you could make it people recognize the oak in your name more.
Fair. Just make it obvious, basically.
Right. Humans are dumb en masse, so they must be led to things. And content creation's no different. So yeah, that's that. Any other questions, any shout outs for anybody?
I mean, if you guys want to come check out some really awesome artwork, Alicia has a really good Instagram page with a lot of really fire art.
You have a link for us?
It is...
Too slow, I got it.
You're better than me.
No, I just have a tab open already for Instagram for yours. I'm not better. I was just in the right time, the right place, the thing. For those of you who don't know who we linked, Alicia in chat, very, very incredible artist, makes some real cool psychedelic stuff. That, be careful, I will give you a warning for the content. Prepare to stare at it and drool for a few minutes. One of the more recent ones really blew my mind. It was a 3D image that was moving, and then it fractaled into a 3D plane, and I was like, did I just transverse dimensions? Art's super fucking cool. That's a great shout out.
Potential epilepsy warning as well.
Oh, good call. Potential epilepsy warning as well. I can see that. Holy shit, 513 followers on Instagram already? You are crushing it.
She went up by like 100 in like 2 weeks.
I can see why. Oh, also unsolicited advice, and I'm really sorry, but I have the same advice, and because she's fucking wicked smart, she probably already drew this from what I was telling you. But the personally identifiable information thing, especially now as you're starting to brand, got to get rid of it. Can't have personally identified information like as a brand name, because there are fucking weirdos on the internet. Specifically, this sounds sexist, so I'm sorry in advance, but specifically if you're a woman, right? People are creeps towards women on the internet, like we talked about a few episodes ago. Gotta nix the personal identification stuff, or don't. I don't give a shit. I'm an Odinist, so if you really want to meet him at your front door with an axe, I support you.
I don't know. I don't want people after me, acorns.
Well, it sounds like your acorns have an axe, so they'll be fine.
There's literally a sword hanging on the wall in my living room.
Right. Oh, I want to get swords, dude. I found a company, Viking Axes, it's called, on Instagram, that builds Viking axes, and they actually do a 2-scale replica of Stormbreaker from Thor's axe, and they also do the one from I don't remember the name of it, but the one from God of War on PS4, which I need to play. I should do a playthrough of that. The God of War on PS4. So I wanted to buy one of each and put them on the wall, like hang them on the wall. And they're both fucking, the company makes them battle ready.
Nice. If you want my advice on steel purchases, there's a really awesome company that does all authentic makes of basically any type of weaponry from any medieval era.
I do want to get me. Go ahead, sir. Called what?
It's a Cult of Athena. It makes
I've heard that.
Supremely high quality.
Do they do replicas too?
Yes.
Cult of Athena. That sounds a little culty to me, man. I really want to get a Lord of the Rings, some Lord of the Rings swords. How cool would it be to have a plaque, like they mount heads on, hunters mount heads on, but a plaque, but instead it was 2 dagger sheaths for Legolas's daggers and a fucking replica of the wood elf bow. How fucking cool would that be, all engraved and shit?
They make that.
What?
They make that.
Okay, Legolas daggers and bow art. I'm Googling it right now.
Because for me, I'm a big fan of Glamdring, the sword that...
Holy shit!
Yeah.
I know they make the daggers, but I don't see like a compilation.
Well, I don't know about the 3 of them together,
but I could do that. Right.
But the sword that Gandalf uses is by far my favorite in the series. So and they have like full scale replicas of that on plaques where you can hang them.
That's fucking neat. I would just need to find like a replica of the bow. Oh, look, there's one right there, but it is. Oh, anyway, quick sidebar. Anyway, to wrap it up, I appreciate you coming on the show. I know I said so in the itinerary. I like to write everybody a bit of a personal message down there at the bottom, and I really encapsulate like saying I enjoy you, like I said, spending your Sunday morning with me. I know we talked about how, you know, we do this anyway, so it was lovely, but you know, it means a lot that my friends and family are willing to go to a complete stranger or strange to them Google Drive, look through a weird ass list of like random stony baloney rambling ideas and be like, oh, that sounds fun to talk about with this weird fucking stoner on the internet on this made up talk show. I want to do that. So it's cool that you did that. As a shout out to anybody in the stream who also wants to do that, there will be more topics up by the end of today. I know I said that last week and I lied to you, but I mean it this time. We'll have some more ideas for shows, so if you see something you want on there, make sure to DM me so I can get you on there. Same goes for you, Silver Smoke. I want to highlight that just because you've been on here before doesn't mean you can't see one of those topics to be like, hey, I want to talk about that one too. In fact, you all probably noticed that Bad Wolf Handmade jumped on there and they're like, I want to talk about these 2 episodes. Write me down for them now. And I really appreciated that. It really helps me instead of people saying, hey, I'd like to be on your show sometime. Tell me when you want to talk about something. Like, I'm not going to do that, right? I'm juggling like tens of people right now, hundreds of topics, literally hundreds of topics. So like, I write them down. You tell me what you want to do. And like, people say, I can do this if you want to. No, just tell me you want to do the thing. Let's have some firmness in it and let's do the fucking thing. So if you see another one that you want, please tell me and we'll put you down for it. Obviously, I had a fantastic time having you here and would love to do so again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely be looking at the spreadsheet later to check the new topics.
Hell yeah. By the end of the day, I literally mean by midnight. So it could be like 11:58.
I'll check it in the morning.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty motivated. It might be soon. I'm no promises because expectations lead to disappointment. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, dude.
You too, bud. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anytime, man. Love you.
Love you too, bud.
All right, I'm hanging up now.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, he hung up first. What a fucking champion. Y'all can see like the thing there. Anyway, everybody, that is the show. Thank you so much for coming to another wonderful, fulfilling, and humble episode of Sunday Tea with Bowborne and the Archers. One of my favorite things about the show so far is listening to other content creators talk about the show and kind of the things that they've enjoyed while they were watching the show. But none of those are as fun for me as watching other content creators try and remember the name of the show when we reference it. So again, for everybody, that's Sunday Tea with Bowborne and the Archers. We're going to go ahead and raid some people. So I hope that you all stick around. We're going to get you to some buddies on Twitch that are really entertaining, really fun to watch. I think y'all are going to really enjoy watching them play some Sea of Thieves. We're going to go raid Fellowship of Awesome. If you know who they are, you should be really excited for this. If you don't know who they are, stay tuned because you're going to meet a wonderful group of people. I just want to take a quick second to say thank you, Archers, for coming by. I see a couple of subs. We got Torgoth and Pink resub. Make sure you come by on Tuesday so we can shoot your arrow for you. We're live Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 p.m. Mountain, every Sunday at 11 a.m. Mountain. Make sure y'all come back on Tuesday so I can shoot your arrows for your subs. We'll get that done. We had a couple follows too. We got Sam. Thank you so much. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the Archers. Looks like Ferrequiem, you followed. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Archers. Willie, thank you so much. Welcome to the Archers. Anybody else, if you enjoyed the show today, please make sure you drop that follow, join the Archers, then come back next week and we're going to have a good time. Until next time, everybody, have a great Sunday. Make sure if you're a sub, you spam that emote for Fellowship of Awesome. Have a great day.
Taking on water or something?
It's the poon barrel. It's the harpoon barrel.